Good evening, everyone. This is Jersey Hobby Hour, episode 6 for September 30th, 2015. I'm Steve Chin, your host, and with me we have Alan Wan.
Hey guys, how you guys doing? Great that you guys are joining us today.
Today we have a good deal of topics, surprisingly, that we've put together at the last minute, because Jersey Hobby Hour is a show where my friend Alan and I might have a guest on, and we'll talk about news topics, current event topics in gaming, entertainment, or anything that really catches our fancy, and basically just get a quick discussion about what our thoughts are on all these things, and share it with you guys, our viewers, who happen to be most of our friends anyway. Today, we're going to actually start with something that's happening rather recently today. Russia actually launched airstrikes in Syria today. We don't normally talk about sort of geopolitical news and stuff like that, but I figured it's probably something we should bring up here right now, simply because it is kind of important sort of on a large world scale. And Alan's not a big follower of this type of stuff, but I happen to catch some of this stuff on the news on CNN while I'm at work. And basically,
at work, you should be working. You should be working, not reading the news, buddy.
Hold up, I know we work together.
They don't know that we like each other, by the way.
Yeah, considering we went, had lunch together this morning.
Yeah, whatever. Acquaintances.
So in any case, earlier in the week, the UN actually met, and lots of the world leaders, of course, show up to the UN. But it's the first time in something like 10 years that Vladimir Putin from Russia has actually visited and gone to the UN. Russia's been a little prickly recently with a lot of stuff happening in Ukraine and a lot of the tension happening through Europe because of that. So he arrived and actually made some comments along with China about how Obama's foreign policy has been kind of lax and that it's not working in the Middle East. And that's sort of what's happening in Syria as well. And that's why you have all the issues that are happening there with ISIS and or ISIL, if you want to call them that. But essentially, the thought here is that Russia is propping up the al-Assad government in Syria. And basically, no one likes them. The Syrian civil war has been going on for a few years now. And basically, U.S. doesn't like the original regime that's there, even though they're considered a legitimate regime by a lot of other countries. Basically because they've been oppressive and things like that. And they started their rebellion, and the whole thing with ISIS and ISIL, they actually joined the fight against al-Assad. So there's sort of two rebel factions that they're dealing with. And basically the Russians are stepping in and probably attacking the ISIS targets. But
that's what they're claiming. That's what
the claim is. But there's no way to be certain, I think, because in fact, a lot of the rebel targets are probably similar, if not the same, because they're all fighting the government there. But at the same time, really what Putin wants to do is just make sure that Syria has its original government intact, because they'd be more friendly and be indebted to the Russians. I think airstrikes by Russia is interesting, and I'm usually more a proponent of having other countries step in and handle more military matters worldwide, although it makes the U.S. look weak, kind of like in that sort of UN problem that we had over the weekend and late last week. But I think in this instance, by Russia stepping in, it's kind of going to draw us in a little bit more, just because we don't want the Russians doing anything crazy and sort of turning Syria rather into a hotbed,
a hole in the wall. Hole on the ground,
sort of a hotbed for terrorist activity inadvertently, just by launching airstrikes. Yeah. I don't know. What's your take, Alan?
To be honest, I don't follow this at all. I should follow more current events. Unfortunately, I don't. I care more about who's going to be the next Spider-Man as opposed to what's going to be any of these foreign policies, which is pretty terrible, which speaks to why, basically why our generation, it's it's kind of like stuff is falling apart because we don't care about foreign policy as much. I mean, well, I personally don't, to be honest with you. I should. My take on the Russian strikes, just basically everything you said. I mean, um, uh, Russia's taking the initiative and going on the offensive and trying to take care of matters, taking matters in their own hands, basically. And like you said, it's gonna draw other countries into the conflict as well, and it's gonna give more focus to this conflict.
A question I have for you is: do you think the Russians really have like sort of a second agenda here, other than just stopping terrorism and stopping ISIS from kind of expanding and taking over Syria? Do you think that they're really trying to make some geopolitical moves and try and make themselves look stronger than they are?
You're saying that about Russia. America does that all the time. Let's be real. I mean, America doesn't defend the country or come to the aid of a country without having their own agenda as well. So it's not just Russia. It's just any country that are going out of their way to help another country. They're looking to get something back out of it, whether it's retribution in the future. Like you said, people there would feel entitled to Russia for helping them. Oh, you're helping us get rid of these guys. So I think Russia definitely has another agenda, but obviously all I can do is just take it by face value, which is what they're trying to do, which is what they're trying to take care of ISIS.
I know I have this kind of bleak view on this because, I mean, what does Syria have? I mean, other than cultural kind of stuff, which is, I mean, always important. The only thing that most countries are getting out of Syria right now are refugees. And you can ask the Greeks and the Italians as they escape the Mediterranean. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's better to have an ally, obviously, especially if they're going to go take on America. I mean, not take on America.
All right. So we do have some other news from this week. Actually, yesterday we had the Google Nexus event that happened, and they actually showcased a couple of new products. Two in particular that are of interest to talk about: the Nexus 5X and the Nexus 6P. And I'll bring that up on the screen here for you to show you a page, which is also a link, which will be posted in the show notes down below if you look on the YouTube page. But Nexus 6P, it's going to shoot 4K, kind of like the iPhone 6, and also is a lot thinner. Basically, another high-end sort of phone for competing with the iPhone. One noticeable thing that I think is important is this new USB Type-C port, which is interesting because it's actually a fully reversible port, which means you don't have to worry about which side it's plugged in on. You can plug it in either direction. They also have their 5X, which is the sort of affordable, comparable item to the Moto G. I believe it's like $400. Yeah, $379 that you can see here. Mm-hmm. They also have the new Android Marshmallow coming out and a few other things here, like Chromecast is being updated, and they're launching that with some new music features and new applications, and a few other I don't think are so important things here, at least for us. Alan, what do you think of the new phones? Did you happen to take a look, and how do you feel about the USB-C connectors?
So what are the USB Type-C ports? All I got from reading the article is that obviously it's departing from the micro USB ports that we've been kind of used to with all the Android phones. So it's using a Type-C port. What is that? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
So my only understanding of the Type-C port is really just the shape of the connector being different. And it just allows you to turn it and plug it in without having to figure out which way it's plugged in. So like, you know that game that you always have to play whenever you're trying to plug something into a PC? Yeah. Where you're like, oh, well, is it plugged in this way? No, damn it, it's the other way. You don't have to worry about that with the Type-C adapter, at least on the side that your phone is connected with. On the far end, you still have a normal USB Type-A connector, which basically just allows you to charge it through any of your normal power blocks that you would normally have. Now, I'm not sure if there's any difference in connection speeds for data transfer or the standards for how much power, how much amperage current you're actually flowing to it. This way you can charge your phone quicker. But I do know that it is reversible, and that's the major difference. And I guess it's more of a pain in the butt because you have to go and buy a bunch of new chargers, kind of like if you changed from iPhone to Android or vice versa.
Yeah, they seem to be claiming that it charges twice as fast as the iPhone 6 Plus. That's what their claim is right now, apparently. Just looking at the phones,
I think
meh.
I remember reading
Yeah.
something somewhere that it was if you charge your phone for 10 minutes, that you'll get 4 hours of battery
Yeah.
life or something like that.
Well, I mean, that's obviously under, certain conditions. I mean, people are probably going to use it, differently, and they're not going to see the same results, and people are going to complain, obviously. Just looking at the phones, the 5X seems like it reminds me, it says, like, I think in the article it says it's an affordable alternative, right? So to me, it reminds me of like the 5C for the iPhone. I mean, obviously this has better specs than that, but I was also intrigued that about there's another announcement they said was Project Fi, which is Google's like a wireless network where they're trying to basically sneak into Verizon and AT&T's territory where they're providing like texting and calling plans. And right now it's only available, I think, for the Nexus 6, and I think it's gonna hopefully capture the 6P and the 5X to be able to support for that network. So I thought that was interesting that they're trying to kind of go for that as well. I mean, everything else, I think one of the major ones, I mean, the Chromecast is nice. The new Chromecast looks like a pedometer, basically. It looks like a pedometer. I downloaded the new Chromecast app. It's nice. I mean, it's not no big deal, to be honest with you. It seems like Google's really trying to aim for trying to get into the house. I mean, they introduced Chromecast audio, which they're trying to use, like, I mean, it's basically Chromecast but for your speakers. I don't think that's that big of a deal. And they're trying to introduce these plans like family music, where Google Music, where you can pay $15 and you can share it with 6 people. But I think the biggest takeaway for me was the Pixel C, which is the Surface tablet, which is basically another company that's trying to go for that kind of market. And it's interesting because it's cheaper. It's $499, I believe. It's definitely cheaper, but the specs are a lot lower. I mean, you're paying for what you're getting. But I think that's the biggest takeaway is that Google is trying to also have a Surface tablet as well. What do you think, Steve?
Well, I think a lot of the interesting things coming out of Google now are a lot more hardware based. In the past, there was all about their Android operating system and who was going to adopt the latest versions of it.
They were a fucking search engine site, okay? Look at what they're doing now.
So, I mean, what I'm thinking here is that, this big push into hardware is allowing them to get more control over the product, which is what Apple's been able to do for years because they've always designed the products from the engineered phase of a physical product and developed the software alongside it. So I think that they're gaining an advantage by doing this, but at the same time, they might be spreading themselves a little thin. I mean, they are a huge company, but they have a lot of different things going on at the same time, and they're kind of new to the market for this. It's going to be a challenge because, I mean, you look at a lot of the products that they have out, like the Nexus 5X and 6P. I believe the 6P is an LG product, and the 5X is, oh, I'm sorry, it's a Huawei product.
Huawei product. So it's by, I think,
the 5X is by
company?
LG. Yeah, I think Huawei is Taiwanese.
It's like
or Chinese. I really don't remember.
It's an Asian company, basically. I mean, it's not the standard Korean or Japanese. I think it is, like you said, it is Chinese or Taiwanese kind of company, which is, I mean, in terms of like people's perspective on quality, obviously it's not the greatest thing to say, right?
I mean, I've used some Huawei phones while I was working at Best Buy back in the day, and they really didn't have a lot of smartphones back then. But I mean, I thought they were okay products. I mean, nothing to write home about. But I mean, I guess they're getting into the smartphone market, and they're large enough that Google has kind of tapped them to make this product that in their flagship phone. So I mean, it has to be at least somewhat worthwhile to take a look at. But like I was saying, though, the hardware is being manufactured by not Google, but these other manufacturers, where Apple has direct control of the factories which manufacture the iPhones and the MacBooks and all their products. So I think by Google doing it this way, they're allowing the costs to be like settled off to the manufacturers, but at the same time they're losing a little bit of that control over the product. I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. I think it's interesting, or more, at least more interesting, that these products will only be available for sale directly online and not through the carriers, which is a big deal because most people buy their phones through the carriers. No one's going online and buying a phone directly from, Apple, let's say. Most people aren't doing that. But interesting fact is that Apple and even Google are, doing these monthly plans in order to allow you to purchase a $600 or $700 phone and, basically pay a monthly plan price for it rather than having to pay, that full price up front, which I don't know. That's kind of cool. And we talked a little about this before with when we talked about plans changing because of all this. And it's just interesting that a lot of the manufacturers are following suit with this strategy too. And I guess it's just to make it more affordable for everyone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think about the sort of plan pricing structure for Google? I mean, you think it's just kind of the same thing, or?
Which which plan are you talking about? The cell phones? How people
are
basically...
what I'm talking about is like so someone like Google being able to front the money for the phone up front and then you having to just pay them back.
That's a pretty smart way for them to push their phones out, right? I mean, you make it affordable for your customers to buy them and pay for them, and basically you tie them up in a contract, I believe, right? It's definitely some kind of contract where there's like a termination fee if you don't pay for it. Is it something along that line?
Yeah, I would imagine so. So the reason why this is just kind of interesting to me and from a business perspective is, Google is not manufacturing the product. You have this other company which is doing it. So, I mean, who's really making the money here? I mean, of course, the company like Huawei has to get their cut. But, Google is not making all this money on the front end from you buying the phone. It's from all the stupid advertisement and stuff like that you're going to end up using the phone for over the next 2 years.
Oh yeah, of course. That's what they're gonna put them all. They're gonna connect all these together. Everything with like you said, like Google, like those Google Photos, Google Family, Google Chromecast. They're gonna wrap these up all together basically and try to give you, try to offer all this stuff. It's just the same with Apple too, with like the iPad, the Apple TV, all these things. That's part of their strategy.
Okay,
this is gonna
I mean I just I don't know. The strategy seems kind of sort of long play on their part, which I guess the company like Google could do that, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, they need to wait until they have military contracts, and then they turn into Skynet.
And then they don't have to do anything. They just make lots of money and just not make anything. Oh wait,
they won't be making money. They'll be dead. They'll be dead. They won't be making money because they'll be dead.
So something else that happened earlier this week on Monday, we actually had NASA confirm that there is liquid water that flows on the surface of Mars currently, not in the past, which they must have shown and thought that everyone did, like everyone did in the past. But if you look at the picture here, they're basically saying that these grayish brown streaks that are running from these sort of darker colored regions on the topographical sort of map here are actually water streaks, that the ground there is wet with a salt which was in the water. Basically, they don't think there's actual liquid water running on the surface, but
there's water.
There's water on the surface which is wetting that ground, and it's just underneath the surface, giving you that sort of coloration down the mountain, which is kind of interesting. I think it speaks a lot to what we have to hope for in the future for kind of space and discovery. And I think a lot of scientists will probably tell you that where there's water, there's life. And there's definitely the chance of that. And I think this is kind of cool to know that there's water on other planets. I mean, just imagine, if we did find life over there, I wonder if it would kill us.
Obviously, this is a big deal in terms of like discovery of life on other planets but ours. I mean, I personally believe that, there is life on other planets, and one day they'll come to Earth on July 1st. I think around that time they start blowing our major landmarks, and it's up to 2 guys.
Only on our Independence Day would they show up.
Yep. Yeah, and all they need is a floppy disk to defeat them. By the way, a floppy disk. But no, seriously. I think discoveries such as this is gonna help jettison funding towards the space program, because obviously the space program has been laying in dormant, right? I mean, like I mean, obviously there's a lot of problems on Earth. I mean,
I think I mentioned this earlier in another show. We talked a little bit about how science isn't sexy.
yeah,
it really isn't. We know this because, I mean, we work in the field.
yeah,
but
we all get laid.
I mean, one thing that kind of interests me, though, is that this information comes out the same week that the new Matt Damon film, The Martian, comes out. I don't know about you, but a little coincidence there.
I agree. I mean, I was kind of jump into that, where like it's kind of sad that, you know, kids nowadays, it seems like they're more focused on what's on Earth, and they don't really have that sense of wonderment about what's beyond the stars, like what's in space. Like there were kids like back when we were growing up, or back then, like they want to be astronauts, but you don't hear that about like, hey, I want to be an astronaut. Now it's more like, hey, I want to be the next like Mark Zuckerberg. You know what I mean? They're more about like, you know, they don't have that sense of wonderment anymore. And it feels like, you know, like news like this, such as, you know, discovering water on Mars, you know, the movies such as The Martian, and even what Christopher Nolan was trying to do with Interstellar, trying to jumpstart that sense of wonderment that, you know, we as a human species had in the first place, about like, you know, there's, all right, we already know what's on Earth, but what's out there? And I'm hoping, like, you know, these discoveries and also the new Star Wars movies will help that.
I mean, everyone wants to have superpowers these days, right? And I think that's sort of like what kids are growing up with. And, you know, they don't want to be astronauts. They want to be Iron Man, or they want to be, you know, the Hulk or something. You know, they want to have crazy superpowers, and they could watch something like that on a show like Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which just premiered yesterday, in fact, for their third season. And I did happen to have a chance to watch it actually just before this show. And I believe Alan watched it as well. Alan, what are your thoughts on the new season?
I think this first episode for the season was really a great start. It's really starts off with a boom where it kind of puts you in the action. Are we doing spoilers, Steve? We're doing spoilers, right?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, we're doing spoilers. So basically, you see this guy who just took fish oil, which, if you saw the season 2, the terrigenous mist that, you know, that activates human beings that have the alien DNA that turns them into inhumans that give them powers. Basically, this guy is on the run and he's freaked out. And actually, this guy is very intriguing, because as you find out later on in the episode, you find out that he's gay and he's Hispanic. And that's actually one of the first, like, in terms of like characters that is like that, because they, in the whole Marvel universe, they have not touched anything that deals with homosexuals. But it was interesting because, you know, it was also, he was Hispanic too. Because actually, one of the things that people talked about in Ant-Man, from what I heard, like, they didn't like it, was that Paul Rudd's crew, they seemed too like stereotypical. Like, if you, like, for Michael Pena, he played the Hispanic best friend. He was basically a Hispanic gangbanger. He talked like one, basically, right? He had the Russian guy who talked like this. You know, you got this. I mean,
Marvel's, you know, got a lot of stereotypes. I mean,
oh no, I agree.
I mean, it's a superhero universe, and, you know, there's bad guys and there's good guys, and not too many people who are in between. Yeah, I mean,
I agree, but I mean, that's why I thought this was intriguing, where they introduce a character that's actually, you know, who's a minority, and also he's, you know, he was homosexual too. So I thought that was interesting, because, you know, that when I was still taking back, I was like, oh, you know, he broke up with his boyfriend. I was like, what? He's gay? Oh, because you automatically assume that, you know, it fits these stereotypes. You know what I mean? So it was interesting.
the thing I liked about that character the most was actually how upset he was about losing his life. And I don't mean like dying, but I mean like his like social life. Like, you mean I can't go out and have a beer? Like, I think that kind of thing is really important to show, especially in a, you know, burgeoning TV show that has superheroes and things like that. Just
the humanity.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that you get in the comic books when you read about like their origin stories and things like that. That you don't get in the movies, especially the movies, and you don't get in television, just because they don't have time for it, and it's also something that's difficult to really show. I think it was good that like they had that element in there, and that they just kind of poked at that a little bit at least.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the episode was really good. They did a really good job of misdirecting the audience. I thought, like they did some cuts of certain scenes that kind of made the audience think certain ways. I think they were showing like people were hunting down the Inhumans, and then they kind of cut a scene where they were showing that it seemed like this new government faction called ACTU or whatever, that are basically funded by the government, who's kind of like the new shield essentially to defend the people. And they kind of cut it where it seemed like these Inhumans were being dissected by them. But really, you find out later on that they're actually the ones that are trying to save them as well. Even though in the beginning it didn't seem like that.
Just it kind of came to my attention. So you said ACTU, it's ATCU.
Okay,
but
good.
when you said CTU, I just thought of 24, and I totally thought of Kiefer Sutherland, like working for like a Shield like organization, and like you have like an episode or a series like of 24, except it like takes place in the Marvel
universe. That'd be pretty awesome, actually. Jack Power. But I thought the production quality of the season also improved. I mean, they did a better job in terms of of some of the special effects. Obviously, some of the stuff didn't look that good when they were showing the guy that's killing everybody. Which his name is Lash, actually, which is in the comic book lore. He's basically these guys who's an Inhuman for hundreds and thousands of years, and basically the reason why he's killing these people is that he wants to make sure that he believes that to be an Inhuman is an honor, that you're supposed to be chosen. You're not supposed to just automatically get these powers. So it seems like he's killing these people because he doesn't feel like these guys are worthy of the powers that they're being granted, and he's hunting them down and trying to see if they are worthy. But yeah, the special effects on him, he looks like a bad Power Rangers monster, or like Blanca from Street Fighter. Like it looks like really stupid, to be honest with you, when they were showing.
I'm really not sure. Like his powers, like they're not very well shown. They showed Daisy and Lincoln's powers like pretty well, and like spent a lot of time
prominent
on that. But like the other guy's powers, I mean, this
goes back, in your chest. What's a hole in your chest?
I mean, this goes back to the fact that Marvel villains are always sort of throwaway characters. And that kind of shows here a little bit too. And overall, I think that the episode is good. I mean, I have kept up with the series, and I think it's definitely worth a watch if you haven't caught up, just to see what's going on in the universe now. Because you really don't need to pay attention to even the Marvel movies to know and to deal with what's going on in the show. And what's happening in the show now is kind of separate and aside from what's happened before. Although there are little things, like little hints here and there. You really could just watch the series just based off of this first premiere.
Yep.
What are your thoughts?
I thought it was great, to be honest with you. I mean, the first half of the first season it dragged on, and obviously you realize why they dragged on, because they had this whole huge Hydra reveal. Season 2 was good. This first episode was really good. I mean, I feel bad for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because the first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had a huge rating. And then because that first half of the first season was dragging, they lost viewers continuously. And it's a real shame, because it feels like later on, the latter episodes are a lot better than what people were seeing. So it's kind of sad that they weren't able to hook the viewer initially, because it's a shame, because right now I think it's a pretty good series.
Yeah, I think that's a problem with anything that's new. You really have trouble like garnering an audience, and I think that the similar case is going to happen with this new movie coming out that it actually has Leonardo DiCaprio as its primary actor and starring actor, using the wrong terms here. Mm-hmm. The Revenant. And there's a trailer is actually out on YouTube, and you can watch it here on their website even. I did have a chance to check this out, and I think Alan has too. So we've got some comments here for you guys. And me, I just want to share my thoughts with Alan. I think this looks kind of cool. I think it's a little bit unique, mainly because, hey, this is actually taking place in sort of colonial times. I see muskets and flintlocks and stuff like that.
Yep.
That's cool. I think that's really important because that's like a part of the story in the U.S. that doesn't get expanded on, very often. That everyone goes to like, World War II or, they go to the 60s or they go to 1920s, railroad expansion and the sort of speakeasy days and things like that. But I mean, no one goes a little bit further back and goes to something based out of, colonial era type stuff. Or even the Wild West stuff happens all the time. But I mean, like colonial era stuff, like the only thing that comes to mind that's really prominent is like The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Oh, that was an awesome movie. I love that movie.
I think the trailer is great. If you get a chance, check it out. It's in the show notes underneath this YouTube video. It'll also be on the YouTube page when this posts after we're done live streaming. But you can check out the link there and take a look. I think it's like 2 or 3 minutes long, and it's definitely worth a watch. I think there's a lot of action, which is kind of cool. I like the way that the story is going, even though they kind of give away sort of what the grand scheme of the whole story is all in one shot. But there's a bear in the trailer. That's phenomenal. That's probably the best part, actually. I don't know, Alan, what do you think?
So when me and you actually went to go watch, I think was it Mission Impossible, we actually saw the first trailer for this movie. But the first trailer was very disjointed. Basically, it was just a bunch of cuts here and there. And
it was super vague. Like I didn't know what the movie was about. I didn't know it was even really in the colonial era because they didn't show a lot of that type of stuff happening.
Yeah, it was just disjointed, and like you said, like I'm more plugged into the movie news, so I knew about it and I knew it was coming. But the thing is that you're like the typical viewer, and you're just like, what the F? So I'm glad that this trailer did what it's supposed to do. It kind of captured you. It had, I mean, obviously it just used some of the same scenes from the last trailer, but it actually gave you a story. Like you actually knew what was going to happen. Like it's a revenge story. And Leo fights a fucking bear, basically, right? And I think that this is one of those, like, this movie's coming out right around now. I dropped my phone. Because it's Oscar season. Because the Academy will eat this shit up. They're going to eat this shit up. Because the reason why is because the director is the guy who won the Oscar last year for Birdman. And the cinematographer is also a guy from Birdman. Which I don't know if you've seen Birdman before, Steve?
No, I actually haven't seen it. I think you described it to me once as basically a washed-up old actor like that played Batman.
Michael Keaton's playing himself, basically.
Michael Keaton, yeah.
Yeah. But it was, but I don't know if I told you, but basically that whole movie, they did such a great job with cinematography where basically it looked like it was shot in one shot. There was no cuts at all. Basically, it just transitioned. You never saw a cut of the movie. You know, like how movies, it would just cut from like one setting to another. It just transitioned. It would just move from, so basically it took place in this this theater house, and it just transitioned from one part of the theater house to another, and basically it just went through. And it was a great movie. So this movie apparently was shot by using pure natural light, which means they didn't use any of the lighting they use for typical movies where they have all these big light bulbs, fluorescent lights. And they're just basically filmed based on the sun, essentially. And they went all the way to the middle of freaking Alaska, freezing to death, trying to film this movie. Because, like, apparently the director tried to make it as realistic as it could. He wouldn't feed Leonardo DiCaprio or the people that were filming. They were just like, we're going to make you feel desperation. So we're going to starve you. And they literally did that to them. And it looks great. I mean, sucks for them when they were filming the movie, but it looks good. It looks like Leo's going to get his first Oscar. That's what I think.
Small note about the cinematography thing. I took a class at Rutgers for the aesthetics of film. And one of the things that they talked about was cinematography. And essentially the single cut shot where you just have long panning sequences, that started coming out of Hitchcock. Hitchcock liked doing that a lot. mainly because it provides you with a lot of information about a scene, right? So like when you watch a fight scene, like in The Bourne Identity or something like that, you get all these quick cuts where like you just see different positions around the fight that's happening, and they're
It looks like it looks like a fucking monkey like shaking the fucking camera like a retarded.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're usually like so close in, like you're seeing his hand hit his stomach, and like, okay, and like you get all these cuts about the hits and the locations and things like that, but you very rarely get a good panning shot that's really far back to really see what's happening, you know, around them. Usually, this is very evident when you have like a third person that's there, and like in the Bourne Identity, like when he's protecting. I don't know. I forget the girlfriend's
Julia
name.
Stiles. Well, Julia Stiles. I don't know her actual name. And then also the girl from the first one that dies. Whoops! Spoiler. She dies in the second movie. But you should have seen the movie.
I mean, you lose kind of frame of where they are during the fight, and they usually have to do something like have something hit them and knock them out for a second so that they don't participate, so they can do this sort of cutting action. This way they can explain that amount of time that person's just not standing there watching the fight happen, which is probably what would end up happening in real life, because like usually you watch two people fighting at a bar, you're like, that's cool, you know. Like you wouldn't get all up in their face in order to see what's going on when you're like, you know, somebody's getting hit. I don't know.
Exactly.
I think the panning shots are really cool. I think that's really interesting. That's what they did. But anyways, that's separate and aside from the. Oh, I just lost my video.
Technical difficulties. I will keep speaking. I think he's fine now.
No,
all right.
I'm good. My audio was probably still good during that anyway. But we were getting a little bit off topic from the original the Revenant thing here, and I think that the trailer sets us up for a good movie. And I initially thought with the previous sort of teaser trailer that I kind of don't really want to see this, but now that I've seen, you know, more of it, I think it's a little bit more interesting. Mainly because there's a bear.
Yeah, that bear looked beautiful. I mean, it looked like, you know, beautifully generated. Obviously,
it's a beautiful brown coat, and like I would totally want to ride that bear into battle, like instead of a horse.
Oh yeah, you mount him.
So speaking of mounting and riding giant fighting beasts, we do have some news about Pacific Rim 2. And Alan, how about you give us a little information on that, since you're keeping up with that?
Sure. So the past few weeks there have been reports about Pacific Rim 2 getting dropped by Universal's schedule, because initially Universal gave them a release date, and then there were rumors saying that, you know, they were dropping it, and today they kind of confirmed it, and they're replacing Pitch Perfect 3 for that release date slot. I mean, to be honest, as a movie executive, this sort of makes sense, because Pitch Perfect 2, I mean, granted how I felt about Pitch Perfect 2, which I felt like it wasn't a great movie. I was disappointed, but it was a movie that cost $30 million to make, and it made under $300 million worldwide. That's a no-brainer, obviously. If you can time, you know, 10 times your, you know, get back 10 times back your investment for it, you do it. And of course, Pacific Rim 1, they just barely made the money back. And the only reason why they made the money back, because, I mean, domestic sales wasn't so good. They relied heavily on international sales, especially, you know, me and Steve's Asian brothers, because, you know, Asians love, you know, giant robots.
Giant robots, people riding giant robots and fighting in the water, phenomenal. Yeah,
especially if you're fighting something that looks like Godzilla, or the kaijus rather. But yeah, I personally love Pacific Rim 1 a lot. Like, I was blown away. Like, I watched it in the theaters. It was amazing. But the plot and the dialogue were like, they were terrible. They were stupid and silly. But you weren't there for that. You were there for the action and everything. And I think that Universal, I mean, they don't want to take that risk again, because they're not sure if people are going to be willing to go out to watch this movie, because it cost $200 million to make the first one. They're probably going to spend $250 million to make the second one, and if they're not going to make that much money back, why would they invest the money? You know, I mean, what do you think, Steve?
I don't think that this was really a movie that needs a sequel anyway. I mean, there's plenty of that to go around in Hollywood right now, and you know,
it's all about brands, dude.
Yeah, it's really about intellectual property and having large kind of multi-movie sets for a particular storyline or a particular universe. You remember back in the day when like Back to the Future and Indiana Jones, Star Wars, and Star Trek were like those were the only franchises that really mattered. You had all these weird, stupid little 1 or 2 movie independent action films or things like that and a lot of stuff didn't matter then. Now you're moving away from that, and you're getting away from those smaller movies, and you just have these big properties which blow up, or you have a company that risks everything and puts millions and millions of dollars into a movie, and it goes nowhere, and that IP dies in the theater with no viewers. I think this is just kind of evident of that. I mean, I didn't go see Pacific Rim in the movie theater when I really should have, mainly because it's about giant robots, right? And it's about supporting new IP and supporting new things that are coming out in the market. And in fact, I think it's something of a duty of us as viewers to make sure that we go and check out new things. Otherwise, we're just going to get the same tired old repeats of old movies, which is probably what Pacific Rim 2 would really be.
Exactly, yeah, because these movie execs, they make their judgment on basically on the box office returns. If they see that you're willing to spend money to watch, was it Hotel Transylvania 2? They're gonna make Hotel Transylvania 3, 4, and 5. They don't care because they know that people are gonna watch it. They're gonna make money, whether it's a shitty movie or not. They're gonna go make it because they know it's gonna make money for them because it's a business.
Now, I need to make a comment about Pitch Perfect because I haven't seen any of the movies. Is Pitch Perfect 3 really more important than something like Pacific Rim 2? Which I don't think either one of them are that important, but I can't be one to say because I haven't seen any of the Pitch Perfect movies.
No. To be honest, like you said, no movies really needs a sequel, to be honest with you, right? You don't really need a sequel for any of the movies, essentially. But obviously, with the whole, with this multi-universe kind of thing, that's part of it, where you're basing a lot of you're making majority of your money on these kind of brands, these kind of IPs that's going to garner multiple sequels. Pitch Perfect 2 doesn't need a sequel. Obviously, where are they going to go? They already did apparently Pitch Perfect 1 was basically them going to national acapella contest. 2 was they're doing a worldwide contest. So what are they going to do? Like intergalactic? Is it going to be like Space Jam? Like, they're going to go against aliens? I don't know. By the way, I love the first Pitch Perfect a lot. I watched it a ton of times. Pitch Perfect 2 was like, meh. I didn't really care for it. I was disappointed.
Just something to bring up. I think movies do need sequels to answer that question you kind of had. And I think that has to deal with not the pent up demand of customers who want to buy tickets at a movie theater, but like the demands of actual viewers, writing letters to people to actually try and get them to make a sequel. Like,
what?
Like a Serenity sequel, for example. Like people want a Serenity sequel, or another Star Trek, movie, or another Star Wars movie. It's not like about pent up demand that no one's saying anything. Like, oh yeah, I think a Pitch Perfect 2 movie will sell more because we sold a lot of the first one. Like I don't know. I don't think the market should work like that. But
I beg to differ, to be honest with you. Well, first of all, as much as I hear great things about Serenity, only like 10% of the people actually watch Serenity, and they're not gonna make a sequel to a movie that only has 10% of the people watching it. Because of the population watching it, and even less than 10%, like 5%. Let's be realistic. Granted, I haven't seen it. No hate on Firefly and Serenity. It's actually 10 years to this week when Serenity came out, actually. And it's a great movie, I heard, but it's not for me. But they're not making a sequel to that because it didn't make money. I beg to differ your point, but yeah.
You know what else is actually 10 years old? XKCD, which I'm not sure if anyone's ever read the comics, but they actually have this guy. Actually, it's a single guy, not a group. He actually made comics online for 10 years, and people probably know this from playing games online and people referencing XKCD comics all the time. This is one of them, and yeah, that's pretty true and funny and hilarious. What's interesting, and I didn't know, is that the guy who created this was actually a guy who used to work for NASA as a robotics expert, and he just kind of made this in his spare time. And it's just a website where he just kind of draws up funny, stupid comics, but hilarious. And they're 10 years old too. Just something else to make a note of that I wanted to bring up. As we move into the next topic, which is about BioWare announcing that there's going to be a Mass Effect theme park attraction. So Mass Effect is a sci-fi video game, which both Alan and I have probably spent way too many hours playing. It's an RPG game. Basically, you get to make choices and determine this really big sort of story as you play through the game. And we probably spent enough time that we would really want to go see a theme park that has something from the universe. And especially since there's a new game that's supposed to be coming out. I think it's called Mass Effect. Galaxies?
Around the same time.
Something? Andromeda? That's something.
Yeah, but it's the same year. It's coming out next year, I believe. And this kind of it's a ride, by the way. It's not a whole park. It's a ride. So it's apparently it's supposed to be you're riding the Normandy. Actually, I was late on the Mass Effect game. I had Mass Effect 2 for like 3 years. Didn't even open it. And then for some reason this year I was like, let me just play it, and it blew my mind. I played Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 all within like 2 months. And I spent a lot of hours and a lot of money on those DLCs. Motherfucking BioWare. But yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a growing trend right now where like these theme parks execs are kind of looking new ways to attract people into the parks. So instead of just drawing the stuff from like the movies, like Universal, they're, I think personally the easiest way to draw people to a park is basically you just find a fossilized mosquito and then basically you just clone a bunch of dinosaurs. I mean, how hard could it be? I think it's simple. But yeah, Mass Effect is great. Mass Effect
that would never work first, but second,
I know.
I
agree. I know. I mean, but
however, I did not see the latest movie, which I really should have.
I mean, I had fun with it, but it's not a masterpiece. I still loved it. So Mass Effect is a great brand to do behind it. I mean, like there have been like I said, there's a growing trend. So like there's a lot of early reports like in Universal Studio Florida's, they're thinking of making a video game theme park. So they're having talks with Nintendo where you can, and World of Warcraft. So like basically, they're going to make a theme park that's based on these properties. And also earlier this month, apparently, Ubisoft is launching a theme park in Malaysia that's based on like Assassin's Creed, Just Dance, and probably what's the other one? Tom Clancy? Is Tom Clancy still Ubisoft?
Yeah, Tom Clancy is still Ubisoft.
Yeah, so it's a growing trend right now where they're not only looking for like obviously the movie IP, but they're also drawing upon like the game IPs to kind of create these attractions. And I don't know, Steve, have you ever been to Great America in California?
I have never left the East Coast at all. And I mean, this is a good reason for me to get out there, but I don't know if this would be the only reason why I would go.
They have a Top Gun ride over there, by the way. I've been there before. They have a Top Gun ride over there. It's called Top Gun. It's a roller coaster. Well, they're also trying to talk about a sequel for that, but I don't know if we want to go through that.
Yeah, it's in like Santa Clara or Santa Barbara or something like that.
Yeah, Santa Barbara. I mean, I went there when, like, how long? 8 years ago? So obviously it's different, but it seems like that park seems to be based on Paramount's properties. So, because I remember Paramount's part of Top
Actually, have you ever heard of King's Dominion in Virginia? I think it's in Virginia.
No, I've not.
King's Dominion was a Paramount like theme park, and they actually had a James Bond like action show that was like done on speedboats or something, and then like a sort of like speedboat arena. I don't know. This was years ago, like when we were in high school. I mean, this was like over 10 years now. Back when Paramount had the rights to it. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of interesting because I wonder if they have like Star Trek stuff, because Star Trek is a huge property for them at Paramount.
Well, let's hope. What was it? Let's call it the Star Trek 2. Star Trek like Beyond. Yeah, Star Trek Beyond. Let's hope that one's a hit, and then that'll kind of put those wheels in motion where they want to have a Star Trek kind of theme park or kind of at least a Star Trek attraction.
Yeah, I think they really need to put something out to compete with Star Wars and kind of make it a really heavy and rich sci-fi sort of time.
It's hard to compete against the Mouse House, dude.
Yeah, I mean it is mainly because they got a lot of money and they've got a lot of movies and they're all aimed at kids. I think that's
they're not aiming for kids. They're aiming for idiots like me that are willing, like, here, take my money. I want to camp out when Star Wars Land opens. I'm gonna camp out. I don't know about Steve, but I'm gonna camp out.
Yeah, we'll go for that. I don't know. I just possibly, and this is just a maybe, after the whole superheroes thing is like kind of, winding down, maybe we'll get back into like sci-fi movies, maybe something with the new Prometheus type movie that's supposed to be in the Alien universe that Ridley Scott's working on.
Yeah, I mean, originally, Neil Blomkamp, the guy who did District 9, he was supposed to helm Aliens 5, I believe. But apparently, Ridley Scott's like, no, you're not touching my toy. We're gonna make Prometheus 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you're gonna make Aliens 5, because apparently he really wants to tell this story about the engineer, because the second one's about them going to the engineer world. I didn't really watch Prometheus that much.
To be honest, I didn't happen to catch Prometheus, even though I'm a fan of the Alien series.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, Ridley Scott, after I saw the reviews for for The Martian. I mean, it seems like he's back on his game. So hopefully, when he makes Prometheus 2, it'll be good.
So in other gaming news, I have a little bit of information about something called Extra Life, which is something that I heard about last year, actually, and only just recently came across it again because it's coming up on November 7th. And Extra Life is a charity gaming event which everyone can participate in because you can live stream and collect funds and create a team so you can play online together. And it's happening November 7th this year. And it benefits the Children's Miracle Network for kids in hospitals that are sick. And basically, you can create a team like you would for any other sort of charity event, like a charity walk, and collect donations on their behalf as you game on Twitch or on some other platform even. And the reason why this comes to mind is because of Dungeons & Dragons. Now, Alan and I have been playing Dungeons & Dragons for a little bit over a year now, and D&D from Wizards of the Coast, which everyone should know from the Pokemon trading card game and from Magic the Gathering, they're actually doing a charity event again for the third year in a row. I did watch the last year's stream, which was a 24-hour stream where the Dungeon Master, the guy who runs the D&D game, did it for that entire time, for that entire 24 hours, which is sick because that's a crazy amount of stuff that's happening, and you have to be like really, 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 really strong to stay up for that long and have to have your mind picked apart by so many different people, because he had different players come in at regular intervals. But they're going to actually have their team do a 48-hour stream this year, all through the weekend, starting Friday, ending Sunday. And these are all people from the team that made D&D. They're going to have giveaways and stuff like that, which is really interesting. You can win different stuff. And they're also going to release information about their new player handbook companion guide for the Sword Coast. So if you donate, you can kind of take a look at some of the new stuff that might be coming out. I think this is really cool. It's a really good charity organization to be donating to. And there's a lot of different games that are on there. It's not just tabletop games like Dungeons & Dragons. There's going to be people playing Call of Duty and all sorts of other games like League of Legends and stuff like that. I think this is really awesome. And as a complimentary to this, Wizards of the Coast is also doing a Magic the Gathering stream on Saturday. If you guys care to watch, I might tune into that a little bit sometime in between the D&D sessions that they'll be running over the weekend. But definitely worth at least a look, if not a donation, to help support that. And Alan, have you heard of Extra Life before?
Oh yeah, actually, I used to watch when they used to have Rev 3 games with Adam Sessler was over there. He did like a Extra Life where he the 24-hour stream, and I watched the full 24 hours. Sick, and I donated, and I think this cause is awesome. This is like remember like what was it last year with all the stupid ALS bucket fad? Like everyone's doing the bucket challenge.
Yeah,
I thought that was silly because because the whole point of the bucket challenge is either you do the bucket challenge or you donate. So it seems like you're bringing awareness, but you're not really donating money to that. So I don't know. It felt lazy to me, to be honest with you.
Well,
I'm not into that kind of
think
stuff.
the viral nature of it is really what was important. The fact that you have
Stupid.
people posting videos online got
Stupid.
Awareness out. So I mean, it's stupid. All right, so this is something that's not on the topics for today, but something that else is stupid. The new Call of Duty, they actually changed their Twitter account name to like Global News Corporation or something like that, and they started posting like news about a fake terrorist attack in some country, and people were like wondering, is this real? Like, what's happening? And then realized that after the hashtag after the name shows the hashtag of the actual user, it said Call of Duty or Activision. So like apparently people are thinking this is a really bad idea, that you shouldn't be making jokes about potential terrorist attacks. Like that's a bad idea for marketing. Like the ALS bucket challenge, I think that was good.
Yeah.
I don't know about faking terrorist attacks. Let's not probably do that, right?
Well, I meant it as in like, people are actually, spending hours or, trying to kind of promote this. It's like, if you're doing a walkathon, you're actually doing something. It seems like the ALS thing seems pretty lazy to me. I mean, that's just my own opinion. Everyone has their own opinion. I thought it was stupid and lazy. I donated money to ALS. I didn't do the stupid bucket challenge because I didn't want to do it. I'd rather donate. I'd rather actually put money to try to help these people. But I wanted to ask Steve if he wanted to do a live streaming thing, board game thing for us this weekend.
I don't know about this weekend, but maybe we could do it on November 7th for Extra Life and just
November 7th,
and for no other reason.
I agree. That's what I would be up for.
We could just start a team and like have people donate like 50 cents or some shit. I mean, it would just end up probably just being us who donate because we want to, and we want to play board games anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my opinion on it.
Well, to close out, we actually want to talk about the new series Con Man, which is by Alan Tudyk. Alan Tudyk was actually an actor on Firefly, and he's done a few other things here and there. If you remember I, Robot with Will Smith, the guy who does the mocap and the voice for Sonny the Robot in that movie is actually the guy who wrote this. And I'll bring it up here. Basically, it's a series, a comedy series about essentially him from Firefly. It's about a guy who's from a now defunct and extremely popular sci-fi series that was canceled, and that he and another guy who was in the show, that the other guy became a star, and he became sort of a nobody who just shows up to nerd conventions, thus the con convention man. And in their title for the for Con Man, because Convention Man doesn't sound as cool, it says really supposed to be about how shitty things are for him going to cons. And there's a lot of interesting and familiar actors that are going to pop up in that. And it's actually premiering on EW, on Entertainment Weekly, streaming at 10 o'clock tonight, Eastern Time. If you want to check out the first 3 episodes, they're, I believe, a half hour long each. I may be wrong on that. But it's definitely worth a look. And if you're interested, you can like buy the series on Vimeo and watch the rest of it when it comes out. But I think this is a little bit interesting because, I mean, first, I'm a Firefly fan. I did watch the series, and I did watch the movie Serenity. And it's kind of interesting to see what his take is on sort of the con life, because I'm sure it'll be hilarious, first of all. The other big thing is that this was originally a Kickstarter project or a Indiegogo project that they collected a lot of money for. And Nathan Fillion and, again, a whole bunch of other famous actors that you might recognize will be in there. Oh, okay. So actually the series is a lot shorter than I had originally thought. It's only about a half hour for all of them together in the first 3 episodes. But I definitely think it's worth a watch. And I don't know, Alan, are you going to take a look at this and watch it?
I am, because this show actually reminds me of Galaxy Quest when they kind of started doing the whole parody, making fun of the geekdom. kind of like, making fun of these geeks or us basically, going to these conventions and freaking out over like all these heroes that we see on TV or movies basically. And obviously, this is kind of relevant because me and Steve are going to go to New York Comic Con next week.
Yeah, I don't think you and I are going to go and drool over famous people though, and be like,
"Oh yeah, now Felicia Day, really?"
Hey, I do want to get Felicia Day's autograph on her book. The book was good.
Yeah, you're gonna. Yeah, I mean, like, from what I saw in the trailer, it features prominent stars like you said, Alan Tudyk, Felicia Day, and Nathan Fillion. I mean, I'm not a fan of Firefly or any of these guys, to be honest with you, on their own. I really find Felicia Day annoying, to be honest with you. But, however, the show itself, it looks like something I would definitely check out. So I'm glad that you actually put this on here because I would have known this unless you put this on here, and I'm glad because I'm probably gonna watch it after this stream.
Yeah, just a satirical take on nerdy, nose wipers who go to conventions. I'm sure these people have real stories, which are probably terrifyingly funny because of things that happened at them. And I mean, at some level, I'm a little embarrassed for other people because of that type of stuff happening.
Yeah. Think of how lucky Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and like the guy who plays Chewbacca. I forgot his name. And Anthony Daniels. How lucky they are now because before they were these
Anthony Daniels does C-3PO.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm talking about the guy who did Chewbacca. I forgot the actor's name.
Yeah, that scruffy looking dude. I don't know.
Yeah, but think about it. They were the con mans basically, essentially, right? Because they didn't have a career outside of it. Let's be real. And now that they're prominent because Disney bought Star Wars, and now they're back to that. They can get that prominency. They're now featured at San Diego Comic Con as opposed to like Utah Comic Con or whatever. You know what I mean? So like they're they used to be like this too. So I thought it was interesting because like now they're more prominent figures because obviously a new movie's coming out and people are going crazy for it. That's kind of my 2 cents about it.
I'm just interested to get a look at the satire, and I don't know. I enjoy good comedy, especially about stupid social interactions that surround things that we do. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I like the Guild, because I mean, it was something that I did. It was really stupid, sort of social thing that I did that happens to have some satire to it now. I don't know. It's really interesting seeing something like this come out, and the fact that it's a Indiegogo project or a Kickstarter project, a crowdfunded or crowdsourced project. I think that's really interesting too, because that just shows you like, hey, if you really want something to happen, you can basically get a Kickstarter going for it and
get someone else to pay for it. Let's be real. Get someone else to pay for it.
Yeah, get a whole bunch of other random people to get together and pay for something that's really cool. But
I'm fine with him using that as a source. I'm not fine with like big companies such as like Sony or these big like movie production companies, like when they were doing Veronica Mars, when they're like, hey, we're not going to put the money to make a Veronica Mars movie, but if you guys put the money to it, we'll make it. So that I'm not happy about, because you're basically giving money to like this big corporation to make a movie, and then you also have to pay for the ticket to go watch the movie. So I think that's not fair, but I do fully support like independent.
Right, but that's technically how it works now anyway. You're really just giving them money after the fact, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that's how it is.
But this goes back to my thoughts on like why early access games on Steam or like other early access games are kind of a problem though. Like you put up money for something like Con Man or another movie, and you don't know when it's done. So you don't know when the art is done. So you might have put up money for something that turns out to be horrendous or unfinished, where if you talk about the traditional way that movies work, you have a finished piece of artwork and then you go and pay for it. And hey, this is actually what they made and it's done. Yeah. I don't know. I think there's something to be said about that and the differences in that. But you get to see cool small projects happen because of something like Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And I think that's important.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the great things about Kickstarter is that it helps these people. We have a lot of brand new IPs because of this, and that's a great thing.
Okay, I think that's it for the show for today. I want to apologize actually for if my voice is a little bit hoarse. I've been a little bit sick recently. Do check us out on YouTube. This video will upload in about 15 or 20 minutes after it's done transcoding. It'll be on YouTube on our page, Jersey Hobby Hour. You can check out the channel and check out some of our previous episodes. It's definitely worth a look if you're interested at all in some of the current events in gaming and entertainment. If you want to be on the show, send us an email, leave some comments down below, talk to us, tell us, hey, you're doing something stupid. We are halfway through our original projected sort of project length. Alan and I kind of set aside time to do this for 3 months, and we're about 6 weeks into this. So you should see another 6 weeks worth of content before we decide, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should change the format a little bit. But things are going good, and we're getting good critical reception from friends. Please, if you want to be on the show, let us know, because, in fact, next week we're planning on having a guest on, Justin Kaz Lucas, who will join us for another hour of Jersey Hobby Hour on Wednesday at 8 p.m., just like we do normally. Alan, you have any closing thoughts?
No, that's it. I mean, please just leave your comments down there below. I mean, the whole point, why me and Steve are even doing this is that we want to start a discussion. We want people to just talk about these things. I mean, whether it's like a stupid comment, it'd be nice to hear from you guys. Thanks.
Thanks everybody for watching. Again, check us out, like, subscribe, share, do that whole funny business. Send us an email or join us on the show. Again, this is Jersey Hobby Hour. I'm Steve Chin, and we'll see you guys next week.